Well, the issue is actually very simple. Under the law, ALEC cannot engage in substantial lobbying. So, for example, and corporations can't get a deduction if they contribute to ALEC if it does lobbying with the money. So, for instance, if Exxon wants to change some environmental rules and they have a meeting in a legislator's office in the Capitol and they say, hey, we'd like you to change these environmental rules, and the legislator says, great, let's sit down and write some legislation together, that's lobbying. Exxon can't deduct that from their taxes. They have exactly the same meeting at an ALEC's junket on the beach someplace, which they do with some frequency. Then ALEC claims that's tax deductible, and taxpayers are now footing the bill for Exxon to pass environmental legislation that it likes.
So you have submitted this complaint to the IRS with all sorts of documentation attached to show that what's going on at an ALEC junket where they invite corporations or representatives from corporations and legislators together to craft legislation that's in that corporation's interest, that's essentially lobbying, and you've got the documents to prove it.
Yes, and because we have the documents, ALEC doesn't even really deny it now. Now they're saying, well, yes, we do lobbying, but we think it's more research and analysis. So I want to know from them, how is it research or analysis when you send a petition to all of your legislator members directed to Speaker Pelosi and Senator Byrd saying, oppose the health care legislation? Is that research? Is that analysis?
Well, but you're saying that they admitted that they do lobbying. Or they're just calling it something else?
They're saying it's lobbying, but there's a loophole for research and analysis.
But they're not registered as lobbyists.
No, because they say they're doing, what they're really doing is research and analysis, even though it looks like to all the rest of us like lobbying.
But so why do viewers care whether they're called a charitable organization or a research organization or a lobbyist? Why should anybody out there care about that?
Well, there's an important reason, and that is because we're losing millions of dollars in tax revenues. That's one reason.
Because all those corporations can deduct their dues from ALEC, they can deduct their junket expenses, because they're saying it's charity and not lobbying.
That's right. I mean, in the last year, one corporation gave almost $400,000 to ALEC and deducted that from their taxes. So that's one thing. Another thing is lobbyists, as you mentioned, have to be registered. We have to be able to see what they're doing. We've made a decision that we don't want them operating in the dark. But these companies, if it weren't for Common Cause coming out and revealing these documents, all of this would be below the radar.
How big is the filing that you...
It's 4,000 pages.
You filed 4,000 pages with the IRS?
Well, that's how much there was.
Wow! And so how long is it going to take for them to sort through that? It'll take forever, won't it?
Well, you know, IRS guys, they love paper. And so they go through the paper pretty quickly. And, you know, it does take a long time because they're very careful.
Will they get fined then if they go through it? I mean, what's the end result from something like this?
The taxpayers get their money back.
So they go after the companies and say, you can't have deducted these. It's like an audit, essentially.
That's right. It's like an audit. You get your taxes audited. If you made a mistake or worse, then you pay back.
So up to this point, all of these corporations have been dropping out voluntarily from ALEC. Do you think that with the specter of an IRS, what is it, an investigation, that might cause more to reconsider?
You know, I think so. There's nothing that makes these big companies more nervous than the IRS starting to look over things like this. They probably now wish they had never done this.
Right.
It seemed like a good. It's not worth the hassle. It seemed like a good idea at the time, but now that it's all become public, I mean, it was fine when it was all under wraps and ALEC only communicated with its members. But now that it's been publicized, most of these companies don't like that kind of publicity, and that's why you're starting to see a lot of them dropping out.